Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, we have big stories of the week, but first, it's scam time. Your money, postage stamps, and guess what? Travel troubles. All of that follows these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
All right, it is certainly scam time. It's been always scam time, but joining us to talk about the latest scams is Brian Roche, consumer investigator and anchor with WGAL News 8. Brian, welcome to the program.
Glad to be back, Terry.
I'll tell you, you have a full-time job just following these scams. Well, let's first, you have one dealing with money. What's that about?
Well, the text scam is one thing I wanted to talk about today because, well, you and I have talked about this before here on this show. We're going to talk about it again because I have to tell you that this is, if it's not the number one complaint or question I get from viewers, it's right up there. And, look, we all have these. Just about everyone over the age of 12 has a cell phone right now, and scammers have discovered, for some reason...
Even under 12, but go ahead.
Yeah, even under 12. But scammers have discovered that for some reason, we as consumers were a little more willing and able to respond to text messages. Apparently, we don't find those as invasive as someone calling our phone. So we can respond to the text message on our own time and do what we want with it. And the scammers are bombarding people with all kind of messages claiming to be from major retailers, banks, FedEx, Amazon, what have you, telling you that there's something wrong with the shipment that you've ordered or something wrong with your bank account. But there's a link in those text messages, and they want you to click on that link. You're going to ask me, what happens when you click on the link,
Right,
Brian? Well,
that's right.
We don't know because they can vary these messages to do whatever they want. You can click on the link. It could download malware, dangerous computer software into your device, or it could send you to another website that's asking you for personal information, all kind of stuff, name, address, birth date, Social Security, and as you and I have discussed here on this show, you don't give away your Social Security number. So these text messages continue to multiply and proliferate, and I have people, when I do stories on the air, I'll say, okay, this one came from Amazon, but then people will ask me, oh, I got this one from FedEx, is it the same scam? Yeah, if you weren't expecting this text message, and someone's giving you this, problem message, yeah, it's a scam. Don't click on the link.
All right, postage stamps. Boy, this is an interesting one. Postage stamps.
Yeah, this is developing. I'm going to say in the last 6 months, the Postal Service has issued a warning about this. If you pay attention to your social media feeds, you're going to see advertisements, a growing number of advertisements on there for postage stamps. Now, right now, the cost of a postage stamp is 58 cents. You want to buy a roll of 100 stamps, it's $58. Simple math.
Right.
But you go on these websites and you'll see on Facebook or Instagram, roll of 100 stamps for $19.99.
No way, no how.
Sounds too good to be true. The Postal Service is very candid about it. They do not sell stamps below their face value, only in very rare circumstances. They have approved vendor agreements with big box stores like Target and Walmart, and they'll sell the stamps slightly reduced, maybe $5 or $10. But if you're buying a roll of 100 stamps for $20, chances are pretty good they're going to be fake. They're going to be completely counterfeit. But how do you tell? You can't tell until you actually get the stamp and get it in your hand. And the post office, they're the ones who can really determine whether or not the stamp is counterfeit. They have a black light technology that they can shine on the stamp and they can find out whether or not it is counterfeit or not. So before you buy these things, you should know that if you buy these stamps, use them, and the post office discovers that you're using counterfeit stamps, guess what? They keep your mail. It's confiscated, and that check you were sending to, I don't know, your credit card company or what have you, it's not getting there because you've used a counterfeit stamp.
All right, you're going to hopefully you're going to do a bit of travel. You better be careful. We'll get to that.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association. the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Welcome back. Well, I'm talking with Brian Roche. He's the consumer investigator and anchor at WGAL News 8. We're talking about scams. They're after your money is often the way I put it. And Brian shaking his head, yes. You know, it's kind of interesting. Text messages, is this the way that financial institutions or retail stores, is that the way they will now communicate with you?
They can communicate with you that way if you give them permission to do so. If you sign up for these alerts from your bank,
right,
from a retailer, they can do that. But if you're getting a communication from a business you've never dealt with, that's when you need to be suspicious. And the scammers are trying to take advantage of our busy lifestyle. They're trying to make you say, I don't remember. Did I order something from Amazon? Yeah, maybe I did, so I'll check on this. Or maybe that is my bank account. I'm not sure if that's really my credit card. They're trying to take advantage of all the things that we have swirling around in our lives in this busy day and age.
Sure.
And they're trying to do that, and you don't know what that link is going to do until you click on it. People ask me that all the time. Yeah. What happens? Yeah. I don't know. It's a surprise.
Well, I take the view, my wife does our financial stuff, so I say, if you get something and it's suspicious, call the institution. Get a hold of your bank. Get a hold of your credit, whatever, your credit union. Call the store directly. Is that the best way to approach that?
That's the best advice, yes. That's the best way to approach that. If it's coming from your bank, like if you're a customer of Acme Bank, but you're getting text message from Smith Bank, you're not a customer of Smith Bank. So why would you should just immediately delete that one.
We're doing a lot of travel scams. What's that about?
It's not so much travel scams this year, Terry. It's a travel nightmare. I'm working on a story right now about this summer's travel season, and I just talked to a travel agent yesterday who's been in the business for quite a while. She told me this is a travel nightmare. This summer is a nightmare because of the airline situation. Apparently, as we found out, a lot of the airlines laid off people during the pandemic. Of course, there was no one flying. They couldn't fly, so a lot of them left. And now they're having trouble getting these pilots to come back and people to work on the airlines. So they're seeing a lot of delays on cancellations, even on what they call blue sky days. Blue sky days are perfect days for flying.
Right.
But the airlines are having trouble getting people to staff the airplanes and move the planes from point A to point B. So on these blue sky days, perfect flying days, hundreds of flights are being canceled or delayed. So people are struggling to get to their vacation destinations this year. And she passed on to me a couple of tips that I'd like to pass on to your viewers. First of all, if you're going somewhere this summer, try to get a nonstop flight. Because the fewer connections you have, the less likelihood you have of your whole trip getting messed up. Fly early in the morning, because the planes are there. They're not coming in from somewhere else. The plane is sitting right there, ready to go. Fly as early as you can. Yes, the thought of a 6 a.m. flight does not turn me on, but I know I'm going to get to where I'm going to.
Right.
She also suggested buying travel insurance. Yes, it costs you more, but if your flight gets delayed, you have that travel insurance, and buy refundable tickets that get you your money back. And she had a very interesting suggestion on this one. She suggested you book 2 flights. So one early in the, I know, this struck me as odd too. Book a flight early in the morning, and then book one later on in the day in case the first flight gets canceled or delayed. But make sure that second ticket, if you buy it, is a refundable ticket.
Oh, you want a refundable?
So you're not buying 2 tickets, but that second ticket should be refundable. I don't know how practical that would be for a lot of people, but it would avoid some of the travel nightmares that are going on this summer, which again, she described this as a...
Well, I've talked to a number of friends of mine who say, as you indicated, flights delayed, flights canceled, sitting in the airport, waiting hour after hour as they keep postponing them, and then after 6-8 hours they say canceled. It's canceled, and they're sitting there. How do I get where I need to go?
Absolutely. I talked to a friend the other day who got on a plane. I think it was in Baltimore. They were going to Orlando. They were told we can't go to Orlando because the weather's bad. They sat on the plane for another hour, and then they were forced to get off, and then that flight was canceled because the crew had timed out.
Yeah.
They couldn't fly anymore.
Well, look, I want to thank you for coming in. I have an assignment. You have to come back in a couple of months and give us an update. These are wonderful, and people need to be very, very careful in this environment. I don't think there's any doubt about that. All right, coming up, we have big stories of the week. I'll tell you, abortion, culture wars. How about impeachment? We'll get to that and more after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Welcome back. Well, joining me are two reporters that are frequent guests on the program. John Micek, he's the editor-in-chief of Pennsylvania Capital Star, and Brad Bumsted, he's the bureau chief with the caucus. All right, John Micek, I'll start with you. As I think most of our viewers know, since the Supreme Court literally has now said, because of the Roe decision which it made, that abortion is left to the states. And Pennsylvania does have an Abortion Control Act. It's in place. So what's going on in the Capitol right now, or what could happen in our state capital relative to abortion?
Terry, the bottom line is, until such time as the legislature acts, abortion is legal in Pennsylvania, irrespective of the Supreme Court's action. The Dobbs decision, which is the Mississippi case, which had the vote toppling Roe, turned the matter of abortion back to state government. Right now, abortion remains legal in Pennsylvania. People seeking abortion care can still seek it in Pennsylvania. That said, there are more than a dozen bills now before the General Assembly, most of them authored by Republicans, that would seek to access or restrict access to abortion in some way. There's a constitutional amendment coming out of the state Senate, sponsored by Senator Judy Ward, Republican of Blair County, that would declare that there is no constitutional right to abortion in the Pennsylvania Constitution, nor is there any right to public funding for the procedure in the state constitution. That's important because that bill does not go to Governor Tom Wolf, who has so far been a one-man veto machine against Republican abortion legislation.
Now, and in the governor's race, if Josh Shapiro were to win the race, he, like Governor Wolf, has said that he will protect abortion rights in this state. His opponent, Doug Mastriano, the senator from Franklin County, has, to put it bluntly, in the opposite side of that, up to a heartbeat, after the detection of a heartbeat, about 6 weeks, no abortion.
No exception.
No exception. No, and with no exception. That's correct. Go ahead.
Well, that's what puts the focus on the governor's race as a result of this Dobbs decision. That's really important because Shapiro would continue to be the backstop for the abortion rights folks, vetoing anything that would infringe in any way on abortion access. And Mastriano will certainly, get some bills that he would sign if the legislature remains Republican, which is likely, not definite, but likely.
Yeah, likely, yeah.
But that he would agree to. But there's one flaw with this theory, and that is that there'll be a landslide of pro-life bills that go through. I'm not sure, even if Mastriano is governor, that this legislature would do things like ban abortion.
Completely.
They might restrict it further,
right?
But I don't see a lot of the Southeast Republicans, voting for a ban on abortion.
Yeah.
And we've seen Mastriano also kind of tone down his rhetoric about this within the last week or so. He's pivoted away from that and started talking about gas prices. He started talking about inflation because, as Brad said, that issue is a loser with Southeastern Republicans. It doesn't. If you look at the polling data, majorities of Pennsylvanians still believe abortion should be legal under all or most circumstances. So we know Mastriano believes this. but he's now shifted his messaging a little bit to go away from that because he doesn't want to risk alienating those voters.
The practical impact of this decision will also be in the political realm in terms of voter turnout. Will this propel, tens of thousands of abortion rights voters to the polls that otherwise wouldn't have gone, to really impact the race, independents as well? It could. On the other hand, that could be negated by pro-life people who basically now have what they've always wanted, a chance in the state to ban abortion. So some believe that the abortion rights people have the most to lose in all of this in terms of further restricted access. So it remains to be seen, but it could turn out to be a wash.
Yeah. Well, the real question is, does this remain a central issue in the governor's race and other contests throughout the state, or does inflation, aspects of the economy, gas prices, I think our viewers know about all that. Do you think that remains a top issue?
Women make up half the electorate.
Yeah.
For Democratic women, this is an absolutely animating issue. I mean, you can look at the protests we saw outside the U.S. Supreme Court on Friday last, out in major cities across the United States the Saturday after the decision. Certainly, Democrats are keeping up their messaging on this because they realize this is as important as inflation and those pocketbook issues are, that this could be an animating issue for the midterms.
Although no one less than James Carville, the former political consultant for Governor Casey, had said that one-issue abortion voters represent no more than 7 to 10% of the overall population. So people who would have that as their only issue they're going to vote on.
It's going to be really
We'd be remiss, Terry, also we didn't
fascinating.
point out this will be huge in the Senate race, U.S. Senate race as well.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, as we tape this program, by the way, the governor and state lawmakers, legislative leaders are still negotiating the state budget. And this year we have, a sizable surplus in the budget, about $5 billion. And we'll see how they spend that. Our experts will help us understand all of that, and we'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
All right, gentlemen, I'll start with you, John Micek. Let's talk a little bit about the budget. As I said, right now, Governor Wolf and lawmakers, as we chat, are trying to deal with a budget which is supposed to be done by the end of this month, correct? It's in law anyway.
Yeah, what time is it, Terry? They have until we're sitting here taping this on a Thursday. They have until midnight tonight to get a deal. That clearly isn't going to happen. This show airs across the weekend around the state. So, knock on wood, by the time you folks at home see this, there might actually be a budget deal in place. But you alluded to this before the break. The state's sitting on a pretty sizable surplus thanks to vigorous tax collections and a balance left over in federal pandemic relief money. Governor Wolf wants to boost funding for public education. He's got his eye on social service programs as well. Still doggedly pursuing a $2,000 check for Pennsylvanians, though that looks like that's
Is that who earned what, $80,000 or less?
I mean, that looks like that's not going to happen. But as we were talking, as we came on to air, there were negotiations going back and forth. The legislature is in session, so it's all very much in flux.
Terry, just a couple.
You've been through a lot of these, so has John.
45th budget, okay? And my takeaway from this, one observation, is that Republicans right now sound like former Governor Ed Rendell when they say it's important to get this budget right. It doesn't have to be on time. But when there was a Democratic governor, they said it's imperative to have this done on time. The Constitution requires it, which it implies it doesn't require it, and state law requires it. So the Republicans are trying to get a good budget rather than one necessarily done to the minute. And the second thing is, it reminds me of a couple years under former Republican Governor Tom Ridge, when there was too much money, and the issue was how are you going to spend it and do with it, as opposed to all the tight budgets we've seen including under Governor Corbett.
That's what's kind of strange. You'd think with too much money, they'd be able to do it, right, John? It's when you have to raise taxes that it becomes more controversial.
I've been saying all along that more money is great until it's not. And that is, that's what's happened here. I mean, the state is sitting on, depending on the projections you look at, anywhere between $5 and $12 billion. And everybody has a plan on how they want to spend it. Republicans want to batten down the hatches, sock away a lot of that into the state's rainy day fund. The Democrats obviously are looking to spend, and as always the case is there will be something somewhere in the middle, one would hope.
Political implications are huge in this. Governor Wolf in his last budget, last year in office, has nothing to lose by pushing for the max. Absolutely nothing. Whereas the Republicans, especially if they're Republicans in difficult districts, voting for whether it turns out to be a $43 million budget, extra spending and all the things they're doing, if it's not good, even though it might be a good budget, it will be easy to demagogue against in a campaign.
Right. And just a reminder, the Republicans control both houses of the Pennsylvania legislature, and obviously we have a Democratic governor. All right, we have about 2 minutes left. The DA in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, faces, I'll put it in quotes, impeachment. What's that all about, John?
I will defer to Brad on this one, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is an effort in the House through a resolution that would eventually lead to an impeachment, could lead to an impeachment resolution against DA Larry Krasner, who has been a progressive Democrat in Philadelphia. He's blamed for the huge crime increase in Philadelphia, which is sort of crazy since it's there regardless of whether he's there. But his policy is to not keep people, drug dealers in prison too long and maybe lessen sentences.
So weak on crime, is that the one way to put it?
That's another way to put it. But it's just, I rarely express an opinion on this show, but here's one where I will. I think it's really offensive to try to get rid of a guy like Larry Krasner, who I don't agree with at all, okay? But he's an elected official of Philadelphia. Impeachment is supposed to be for misconduct. There's no misconduct. They just don't like the way he's handled it. How would it be if a Democratic legislator saw a Republican county executive somewhere doing all sorts of things policy-wise they didn't agree with? They're going to impeach him? I mean, it's just, I don't get it.
Democrats in the House from Philadelphia during debate on this bill pointed out that if you want to attack the root causes of crime in Philadelphia, then that's fine. Attack the root causes of crime in Philadelphia. Go after poverty. Go after the easy access to firearms down there. But I mean, none of this addresses the causal stuff, but it is of a piece that we've seen of these Republican attacks on progressive prosecutors, the recall of the San Francisco DA, for instance. So there's nothing strange about it, but it is hugely performative that doesn't address any of the underlying problems.
And a point there is recall is a lot different from impeachment, which requires wrongdoing or misconduct.
Right.
And to my knowledge, Krasner hasn't done that.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to thank both of you for coming in. This is a great update. And I'll say to our audience out there, we're talking about the budget right now, and that's very difficult to do while the negotiations are still underway. At any rate, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, you stay well.